Coming up in this week's episode.
Has anybody ever gone into a pub and said, I'll have the poached salmon pie?
Or the sweet fingers.
Or the sweet fingers?
I mean, I think I've had some sweet fingers in my time, but not probably in a pub.
Back in the 80s, my friend was explaining, what you have to do is you have to catch the barman's eye.
Yeah.
So there's 1980s in a pub full of men, this Norwegian guy winks at that.
But all sorts had a lesbian at one point.
Joking.
The news went mental when what's-her-face kissed another girl. They're like, what? What's happening? I'm not having this on my telly. Thank you very much, bloody Channel 4 perverts.
It's time to adjust those shoulder pads, backcomb what's left of your hair, and jump into the DeLorean for a look back at what's possibly the best decade anyone could ever have grown up in.
Shall we play a game?
This is Bring Back the 80s with your hosts James Alderson and me, Andy Jackson.
We are Tuesday the 12th of November, which makes it edition 5, Series 3. Welcome to the Bring Back the 80s podcast. Andy Jackson here. I'm just waiting for James to arrive. As you can see, we are in a lovely location this evening, of which James is going to tell us a little bit more. But he's just coming over with... Oh, look at this, James. Look at this. Oh, mate, look.
Happy November.
Oh, cheers. Happy early Christmas to you, James.
Cheers,
look
mate.
at that.
Let's have a little chink.
Do it sideways on. It'll be the right way round. Skull. There we look at that.
There we go.
Marvellous.
Oh my goodness. Should we put it down there?
Yes.
We haven't
Gonna go. We're getting like
nothing better than this than a nice warm pint.
Fantastic.
Great.
So as you can gather, we thought as the nights are drawing in, there's nothing better than a cosy night in the pub, or whatever, and we sort of bring back some of the 80s ambience.
Just a bit.
Yes, and of course no women in the pub at the moment as well, which is kind of how it was for a little while.
How it should be, Andy.
Yes, and if a woman was to come into the pub on her own, she was a certain kind of woman back in the 80s.
If she wasn't when she went in. Yeah, so it was a different place altogether. But always would have a fire at this time of year, obviously. Probably a picture on the wall of dogs playing snooker.
Yes.
Pretty essential.
Every time.
They played it a lot better than I bloody did. But yeah, and obviously they have these. Can the people see them?
Can we do this? Yeah, look, I'm on.
We've got one on. Look at that.
Look at that.
But they were a thing of the past, even in the 80s. So that was a weird thing, is that they were everywhere in pubs in the 80s, but horses didn't have brasses, and we didn't have much horses about for about 30, 40, 50 years.
To be honest, no horses. I think it was like that, just to make you feel like you're in an old-fashioned pub.
Bit of nostalgia that everybody loves, Andy. Hi.
Thing is, though, now the horse brasses were the nostalgia now.
Yeah.
80s, obviously, is the nostalgia. So in 30, 40 years, people would be saying, oh, do you remember when those guys did that that thing in the pub and it was all nostalgic?
No, what it'll be is in 40 years, the kids will be like, hey, do you remember Facebook?
Yes.
Do you remember Twitter? Oh, my goodness. Well, before we had chips in our brains.
We are like that with like MySpace. I was talking to somebody about... So I think it was Adele who was discovered on MySpace. That was where she posted her, her stuff back in the day.
Right.
I think MySpace is still a thing.
Is it?
But one day, I don't know, I've not been on...
Space. I don't know.
It's weird how things sort of come and move on and go.
Yeah, I think Justin Timberlake bought it, didn't he? MySpace. I think he actually bought it.
Did he actually?
Yeah, when it was on his knees, on his arse, he bought it. When leave it to me, guys. I'm bringing this back. He didn't, did he? Bless him.
Isn't it weird though that things do move on, and something that was just an integral part of our lives at the time, as now nobody's on it anymore. And I think Facebook is going that way as well, because I think kids now, they're all about the TikTok rather than the Facebook.
A bit of Instagram, Snapchatting. They're doing all sorts, but what they ain't doing is Facebook and MySpace.
This is for the old folk.
Hi guys.
That's just for the oldies.
Thanks for joining us.
There we go. So if you just want to say, by the way, coming up a little bit later, we got the answer to the mystery sound.
Oh yes,
we did.
Yep.
And we've got a brand new mystery sound for you.
Good.
All the usual features as well. If you're enjoying what you're seeing and you're liking what you're hearing, just share it with one other person. Spread the love, spread the word.
Yeah, and some of you, I know, will be sat in a pub watching this with us in a pub. That you are with us in a pub on a social trip out. So thanks for joining us.
So time for the first little clip before we go any further ado, and it's another one of the TV adverts for, I'm not sure if it's still around, from back in the day, but we'll find out in a second.
A pint of Worthington Best Bitter, please. There's one best bitter that's really worth waiting for. Worthington Best Bitter. The only best bitter worthy of our name.
How about that? Worthington Best. Is Worthington still a thing? Pint of Worthington, please.
Not down here.
Yeah, I've not
in the
heard anybody
south.
say that for a while.
It might be up in the north some point, but I really don't think there's anything like that down here. Or if there is, it's in some sort of specialist nostalgia pub. But yeah, I mean, those sorts of adverts were always so cliched. It was a man drinking with a cap on and a full-headed pint and probably a dog pigeon on his shoulder or something.
Yeah.
Something happened, and most of it was northern. Unless you had some stereotypical like skull, like he's a London geezer or something. I've got the tray here. Got a skull tray. Obviously,
brilliant.
yeah,
It's collector's item, James. Yeah,
I think it goes obviously with the skull. The mugs. People probably can't see, but you can see it if I drink from it. That's
God, this is how they would be carried as well, wouldn't it? Like not just decorative, an actual tray.
You take that over to your table,
yes,
with the 4 drinks on, I've got another tray here. I'll bring it out in a minute. But you see, people were sat about or stood at the bar mostly. Now everyone sits down with a knife and fork. They're ready to have a 3-course meal.
Well, things have changed a lot because there was the big fuss that I was seeing that queuing at the bar has now become a thing.
Right.
And, because you never used to queue at the bar. It used to be you used to have to catch the barman's eye.
Yeah, it was next, please. Yes, love.
Yeah, and it would just go like that. I do remember, this is going back to the 1980s. I had a friend.
I was lucky.
A friend of a friend came over from one of the, I think it was Norway.
Right.
And the pub culture is slightly different over there. And I remember my friend explaining how to catch the attention of the barman. They said
what do they do then?
Said you got to catch the eye of the bar. I don't know how it works over there. I've not been to Norway, but maybe there's I don't know. But anyway, back in the 80s, my friend was explaining what you have to do is you have to catch the barman's eye.
Yeah.
So there's 1980s in a pub full of men. So this Norwegian guy winks at
What sort of pub was he in?
Something slightly lost in translation there.
Never got served the whole night.
Got served again.
Saying that, the funny thing was, and I don't know what it was like in London, obviously it's a different world to me down here, but most bar staff, apart from the big fat landlord, were ladies.
Yes.
Pubs with ladies with bosoms.
Big bosoms.
And there's no other way to put it. It's not a sexist. Well, it was a sexist thing, but they wanted the ladies to dress a certain way, and they put them on the bar, pulling the pumps. It was all very phallic.
Yeah.
And they're all just like, hello, big boy. And it was all the guys would swarm to that pub, 3 men deep, not a woman to be found. Yeah, so it was unusual to have a man. I worked in the early 90s in a pub, a Navy pub, as a student, and I had long hair in Portsmouth. You can imagine the grief I used to get. They'd empty an aircraft carrier with 3,000 Americans, and I'd be stood there with my long hair, and all the Yanks would walk in thinking they'd come into a gay bar. And it was like I'd be just serving in this tiny pub, like this sort of size, just as a long-haired student. Character building, they call it, don't they?
Absolutely. Speaking of pubs, by the way, as well, we are in a lovely pub. Tell us exactly where we are, James.
Ship and Bell in Horndean, run by the lovely Jim and Alice. So the Ship and Bell pub, 18th century, maybe even late 17th century pub, next to the Gales Brewery, as was. Not now, that's all flats, of course. But it's amazing, gorgeous history here. They've even got something from the 1800s, not the 1980s, a bit of newspaper on the wall there they found behind the wallpaper. So absolutely lovely pub, and obviously great fire here, roaring fire, and 2 old blokes sat by it. Who knew?
Drinking pints, as it should be, and again, not a woman in sight, as it was back in the day.
Now, I want to show you this before we get into anything else, just very quickly, because what would happen in a pub, in the corner of every pub in the 80s, was some old guys playing dominoes, or cards. If they were really old, bit of shove halfpenny. It's not unheard of. And the other corner, of course, someone with a pinball machine or an arcade machine or an old fruit machine, maybe a jukebox.
Yes.
But what I've found for us to keep us entertained for now is a pack of cards.
Look. Look at that.
Newton and Ridley
Yes.
cards by the brewery of the Rover's Return. And you can bet, is it bridge? I don't know what you play, but some card game.
Yeah.
Snap?
Snap, yeah.
Okay, that's as complicated as we're getting. But yeah. So I found that and I thought, you know what? I don't know if it's probably not got a picture of Better Lynch in it, but it's, never been opened. Whoops. And fresh pack of cards from Corrie.
I was going to say, you talking about Better Lynch has just reminded me the fact that you were saying just now that pubs, you go in, you sit down with your knife and fork because you go in there to eat.
Yeah.
Apart from Better Lynch's hot pot, pubs didn't really, wasn't a food thing, was it?
You get a pie and peas. I don't even remember pie and mash. I know pie and mash is a good cafe sort of thing, a greasy spoon thing. But you pie and peas or a pie, or you might get some crisps. But it's quite limited options. I've got some crisps here. I'll show you because I know you're excited by crisps. There you go.
Can I just point out that James has got a special category of 80s crisps?
Can we have a bit of respect, please, Andy? 80s crisps. So we've got some. These were the Smith Square crisps. You might get these in the pub. These are from the 80s. You've got cheese on you.
The really salted ones.
Salted, yeah. This was always a good one. Do you remember KP Crisps had was it the monk? Had the monk on the front.
Yes.
And here we've got you wouldn't get these in a pub, Monster Munch, but look at that, you got a video, you can win a video in that one.
I'll win a video camera and recorder.
Well, I know it's the future, mate. It's the future.
And 1,000 disc cameras to be won if you don't win them.
Late 80s.
Made prize as well.
Yeah. And obviously, I don't think you get these. You would get the cheese and onion and the square crisps, but you might get a salt and shake. There's a salt and shake there.
Salt and Shake, I remember the TV adverts for Salt and Shake, and the whole thing about it was that you could add your own salt.
Yeah,
which seems to me, and even at the time, as a younger person, I thought surely this is a step. Surely it's got to be a step backwards.
Well, I remember my grandparents who always used to talk about it because it was twisted with wax or something, the little blue salt thing, and it was quite a new thing because they would just get plain crisps, and to have your own salt to put on it and seasoning, crazy, futuristic. And I found this at a car boot sale, a multi-pack of Smith's crisps, and it had loads of tools in it wrapped up, and I spotted the logo and I thought, well, that's going to be a bag, and I saw it said expires 26th October 1985, and I said to the guy, how much for the bag, mate? I don't want the tools. He went, what? I said, you can keep the tools, I just want the bag. And he said, what? He said 20p. I gave him a quid. It's worth about a tenner. So I hope he's not watching. But so it's crisps, crisps and a pie maybe. Steak and mushroom or
peanuts for afterwards.
Well, you have to get the peanuts because you want to see the boobs on the back card as they reveal it. Always gutting when you were sort of 19 or 20 and you're in a pub and you went, "Can I packet of peanuts?" and she pulled off the one that revealed a shoulder. You're like, for God's sake, I'm never going to see a woman in the street. Was it ever fully revealed? I don't.
Or was it just legends? That was what was underneath.
Somebody said there was boobs under there somewhere, sir. I always remember going into a garage and workshops to get my car repaired, and posters of boobs 3D, and fannies everywhere. Yeah. You couldn't bloody move for a fanny, and it was everywhere. It was always they were in lycra and leggings and a sweatband and an acid perm of some kind, and then they had everything on view. No wonder you didn't get your car fixed very quickly, or just
can you imagine going in to get your car fixed? And seeing that. On the wall.
Well, we'd have to have a cock and balls just to balance it out, wouldn't you? Just be like, that's nice, that's okay. You've got that. Something for everybody. All the sorts of all the tools you need.
Indeed. So, speaking of tools, by the way, don't forget if you want to get in touch with us, social media is the way to do it. Just leave us a little comment as well. That's the way to enter for the competition, where we do a mystery sound. And last couple of weeks, we played you a mystery sound, which has been correctly guessed, and I can reveal Dave Wright from Fareham has guessed our mystery sound. Well done. So you've got a choice of a Bring Back the 80s t-shirt, or tickets to one of your comedy gigs.
Or to the live show. We've got about 20 tickets left. Well, if you're watching this, I'm not sure how many tickets we'll have left, but we have got some seats in the back row, so don't panic. You're not going to be involved in the show too much, unless we get a really long mic cable and go roaming.
Who knows, James? Who knows?
Well, we're loose cannons, as everybody knows on this. We've probably, by the time you're watching this, got a dozen tickets left. And unless loads of people ask for refunds, we might have 50 tickets left. Who knows? But it's going fast. So grab your tickets, but you can get free ones if you guess a sound.
Yes, and And here is Last Time Sound, correctly guessed, as I say, by Dave Wright from Fareham.
It's the mystery sound of the 80s. It's the mystery sound of the 80s.
See, I never really got into Brookie, which is what it is. The theme of Brookside. Which was 83, 84, I think.
Okay.
One of the early ones on Channel 4. The only thing I can remember about the entire Brookside thing was that somebody was buried under a patio.
Oh, and you're thinking of Fred West, mate. That was the news. That was the news, Andy. It was a bit more... You see, what it was northern.
Yes.
So EastEnders was around the same time, just before, I think. And I think we were sort of okay with that, the general population. And then they moved it up north to Brookside, and everyone was like, hang about, this is going to be fiery now. It's northern, isn't it? Very regionalist. And it really was. Because this was pre-Dirty Den killing people and jumping in the river and whatever he was doing and punching people and the Mitchell brothers. Because EastEnders wasn't as harsh when it first started, and it started getting a little bit more edgy.
Yeah.
Because things like Brookside, where they were having, they had all sorts. They had a lesbian at one point.
Joking.
The news went mental when What's-Her-Face kissed another girl. They're like, what? What's happening? I'm not having this on my telly. Thank you very much, bloody Channel 4 perverts.
I think there was a time when it was okay for girls to kiss girls, but it was still very much taboo for boys to kiss
Well, that's
boys,
how
wasn't
EastEnders
it?
reacted, because they had the gay couple that came in, and he had AIDS in this film, in the series.
Not cliched at all.
No, that's right. Yeah, he's touching willies, make him die. That was basically what the world was thinking. But EastEnders replied with a proper hard storyline of that. Which got them back very much into people's living rooms.
Not sure about the use of the word hard there, James. But,
No, okay.
But there we go. Do you want the new mystery sound
I'd
for
love
this
that.
week?
Thanks very much.
So well done again, as we say, to James Wright. So your chance this week to win again a T-shirt or tickets to one of the live shows James does, or our live recording of this very podcast. Just tell us which 80s TV show this comes from. So we've had enough grittiness,
Goodness
northern grittiness.
sake.
So let's go somewhere hot and sunny.
Sexy.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys got slightly aroused listening to that theme tune. It's just like, I tell you what, I think this podcast is going up in the world. Oh, God, I love that. That was a tune. It reminds me, actually, another thing you had in the pubs is jukeboxes.
Yes.
Always had a jukebox. Not a little one on the wall.
Big,
Massive thing with neons and buttons that went ching. You'd press like B7 or like ching 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 ching, and then you'd sometimes see the record sort of come down. Not always, but some of the older ones, and everyone listened to your music.
Yes.
Which is a little bit like being on a fucking train now. These millennials who turn up and go, I'm just going to play it on my phone, actually.
What on earth? What is that about?
I don't know.
It's the thing of people listening on their phone out loud.
Oh, with a Bluetooth speaker.
Yeah.
They're walking about.
Yeah.
I mean, we invented the Walkman, mate. It's been 45 years. Put it on your ears. Oh, it's just crazy because they love all their Dr. Dre Beats earpieces and stuff and walking around with these constantly in their ears. The minute in public...
Yeah.
Don't. Everyone needs to hear this, thanks. Yeah. And it is like being in a pub in the 80s. You put on a tune, everyone goes, what the hell is this nonsense? I want to listen to bloody ABBA on a Friday night. That's what happens when a bird comes in, mate. Or the Smiths.
Because now, as well, with, like say, jukebox is not so much a thing, but Bluetooth speakers in the pubs are definitely much more of a thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes the music's to your taste and sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
But I've discovered that sometimes if you don't like the music that's coming out of the speakers in the pub, all you got to do is get your phone out and connect.
You can do it.
You can do it.
You can take it over.
Music.
Oh God, sometimes it's good. But sometimes, if you happen to be watching porn at home and you've got a Bluetooth speaker in the kitchen,
not good.
It's not good. You should think, why is the sound not working on this?
Set it up and up and up.
And your mum's downstairs in the kitchen and she's listening to, oh God, oh yeah, oh my God. You're turning the volume up. And it's like, and you walk downstairs and your mum and your wife are like, we've just had an awful noise in the kitchen. It's like, I heard nothing. You got to be careful with Bluetooth, kids.
What can you do, There's no return from that.
There's very little you can do without sound.
No return. Absolutely no return from that. Obviously, that sound, that little clip that you just heard, was I suppose he almost could have been in the 70s. Could have had that kind of instrumental feel to it.
Yeah, and the main character was certainly the vibe of the 70s feel going on, but he was, I mean, epic 80s. Epic. If you don't know this one, give up.
Let us know in the comments, either there or wherever.
Yeah.
It'll hang around for a couple of weeks. We'll do the winner episode after next.
Yep.
And like I say, tickets to one of James's shows or our show, or Bring Back the 80s t-shirt. The choice is yours.
I tell you what, the character on that show probably was quite famous for. I don't want to give it all away. Not silk cut, but certainly having a smoke.
He would not be smoking. He'd more
cigar, wouldn't he?
Yes,
cigars.
Yes.
I think so.
Yeah.
And these, well, you don't want to touch it for too long, do you? Disgusting things. But silk cut. I mean, silk. Look at that. They sponsored Formula One at one point, and Rothmans.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all over the place.
Well, if we were sitting in the pub now on this podcast, you would just only be seeing us through the haze. Of the smoke. Yeah,
sexy.
Yeah,
we wouldn't be able to talk.
No.
I mean, the fire's gone out, so the smoke's gone from that. But it would be like, because when the nightclubs stopped allowing cigarettes as well, they had to introduce the dry ice.
Yes.
Because everyone would walk in and think, well, this is like walking into a bloody Boots. It's a Boots chemist. This is so clinical, and they brought in the ice so that you couldn't see the ugly bloke you're getting off with on the dance floor. But silk cut, I mean, they had fag machines in the pub.
Yes.
Where you'd queue up and then queue for the loo, and then you'd go and queue up and you'd get your Rothmans or your silk cut or your Benson and Hedges, and you'd go and just light up.
Yeah, you were never a smoker, so you wouldn't know. So you wouldn't know this.
Good point.
But sadly, at the time, I was a smoker because they were always fixed price in the machines.
Yeah.
So just like that.
What's an ambulance trying to help you with your smoking?
So there he goes.
Oh, it's an
Off he
ambulance.
goes. But they, instead of having a 20 in a pack, you would get the pack. You think, oh, these are a decent price, and you'd open the pack, and there would be 14 cigarettes.
Oh, really?
Instead of the pack, all 15 or whatever. So they would lower the number of cigarettes in the pack just to by price. So it was always, I think it was B&H were always the most expensive. Benson
a golden packet. It costs
a
more
golden
to print
packet.
it, doesn't it,
Silk
mate?
cut. Proper smokers never smoked silk cut because it's like puffing a straw.
Was it?
To say,
Not good.
Not good.
Oh dear.
No.
But I mean, many a fight has been started by getting this twatted over your head. Yeah. There was glass, and now when you get a rare cigarette ashtray out in a garden, they're normally tin or a little bit of something just to sort of delicately put it in. But back then they were quite prized, prestigious things because you felt like you were quite cool smoking, not you were on death's door. So it was made of solid massive glass, solid bit of ceramic, solid bit of chunky metal, and someone says a bad word, walk up to the bar, they get this around the back of the head, or one of these.
I remember there was a spate of glassing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was all, I think it was probably all over the soaps, wasn't it?
Yeah.
For people getting, that was the thing. You'd go into a pub, you would get glassed.
My dad got glassed. Got glassed in Havant, I mean, he probably deserved it, but it's, he's in Havant, let's be honest, so everybody got glassed. If you felt left out if you didn't get glassed in Havant. But it's, he got glassed. He ended up with stitches across the eye. They just missed his eye.
Well, that's lucky.
Well, yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, the other guy wasn't so lucky. But we won't talk about what happened afterwards. But
happens in Havant, stays in Havant.
Yeah, no, he did a little spell. A little spell in porridge. But it happened. And I think that fights were quite regular, and I think because they were just testosterone hubs, you didn't have meals, you didn't have 3-course meal, you didn't have a nice glass of wine, you didn't have the ladies. It was just drinking straight after work until you fell over. A bit of a weaponry came in handy.
Indeed. Speaking of drinking, let's have our next little clip.
I bet he drinks Colin Black Label.
Senior Senior body poppers insist on a pint that's brewed to give a fuller flavour than any other leading lager.
Calling Black Label.
Darling were very clever with their ads.
Oh, yeah.
Very clever. And they, just taking that. And because it was all about body popping and boom boxes.
Yeah.
Ghetto blasters, as we call them.
I was all over that.
But we can't call them ghetto blasters now.
Apparently not. Apparently not.
Boombox.
The funny thing about that clip is that we were laughing at old people. Yeah, they'd break dancing, blah, blah, blah. These days, old people are breakdancing. Yeah, if you go on YouTube and you Google some of the groundbreaking, body poppers and robot dancers and break dancers from the 80s, they're all in their 60s and 70s now.
Yeah.
Still doing it. I mean, I could do it, but it'd be the last thing I ever fucking do. Do you remember James? Yeah, he tried to spin on his head. Dead. Just died. But yeah, so those guys then in the 80s trying to show that it's the old man's drink, but you can be young too and it makes you feel great and blah, blah, blah. But now, yeah, they're all... The original breakdancers are either very old or dead.
It's a sad thing.
Apparently it's the way time works.
It's a sad thing.
Yeah.
It like the other day at was it the Drifters? You were
I was in a venue where the Drifters were playing, and it was the Drifters. It was one Drifter.
Because they did Saturday Night at the Movies, and did they do the Wimpy adverts as well?
Probably.
I think
Was it
they
Up
did
on the Roof and all those sorts of weird things? Yeah. And so the original Drifter is. He's very, very old. Yeah, he's drifted, to be honest. And the others are driftees. I'm not sure what they are, but they're not drifters because they all look about 30. But they're great. But there's only one. There's only one guy left. Bless him. But they sounded brilliant. But yeah, it's everyone's getting older.
It's sad but true.
It's weird, isn't it?
Sad but true.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Which is why we're here. Shall we do my favourite bit?
Okay.
Which is this.
James's special lunchbox surprise.
Now, I didn't want to bring the lunchboxes into the pub because we might get looked weirdly at.
Can't bring your own food. Can't bring your own food.
Don't bring your own food, mate. No. So I've gone to the bar and time traveled down into the cellar, and I brought you a couple of these out. Which would have been definitely behind the bar. Smith's.
Look at these
fries. Okay, now these are one of the few pub snacks from the 80s that are still about. Okay, you can find a pork scratching if you want. They're not quite the same, but scampi fries you can
Got to get into these days.
Well, I haven't. To be honest, I've never really eaten much of them, but I thought I'll try it.
Oh yeah. Ooh. Oh, they were straight in them. These I could tell they're going to be exactly the same.
Well, they are, aren't they? They're lovely. And the thing is, there's something about it because bacon fries, scampi fries. Why was that pub food? Because you didn't have bacon in a pub. You didn't have scampi. Did you have scampi? Maybe you had scampi
in a basket.
But we never called chips fries, did we?
No.
Back in the 80s. So where's the fries come from? Because we didn't they were crisps.
And
it's weird, isn't it?
Just because they were fried, James.
Yeah, but I suppose chips were fried. But we called them chips, didn't we?
When did we stop calling chips chips and start calling them fries?
Well, the odd place started calling them French fries, and they're trying to be fancy. So maybe that was late 80s, early 90s. Certainly with the people like Burger King and McDonald's creeping in and calling them, even on the menu it said French fries.
French fries, yeah.
And you'd ask for some, well, I still ask for chips, but French fries. So I do it because that's what we call them.
Yeah.
We're not French, we're not American, mate. Chips, please.
I think the only place where chips have stayed is fish and chip shop. Chips. You don't have chip shop fries.
No.
Although I do remember going into a fish place in Whiteley years ago and getting fish and chips and being appalled when they gave me French fries.
In a chip shop?
In a chip shop.
Did you walk out in disgust?
Appalled. Never been back.
Mate,
Never been back.
I wouldn't, mate. What, to the town or the chip shop? Boycott the town. That's it. Never going again. Yeah. Now I have got this because I've got obviously the food that we've talked about in the pub. Quite prolific. Not much exciting stuff happening, but I've got a tea towel here with some various food from the local area that would have been in the Lakeland area. But the reason I've got this is not only has it got the recipes on, but if you didn't have a landlord with that over his shoulder all the time, then he wasn't a proper landlord. He had this, and it would been lasted the whole shift. He's just wiping his hands with the beer. There's a bit of mushroom on there.
Sweat.
Yeah, dabbing his brow, wiping his mouth from the bits he's just eaten from the kitchen. He might have had it tucked into his trousers, but he's got it over his shoulder, and that's just there. Not the barmaids, because they had to look lovely and fancy.
Yeah.
A bit of lippy on, high heels, a bit of cleavage. But he, walking around like he'd just been walking through a tip, and he's got stuff down him, and he's got this, and he's got his hands in the till, he's got coins. It's nothing like health and safety and cleanliness in the pubs.
There was no such in those days, though, James. There was no such thing as health and safety, food safety.
No,
there was nothing.
So what we've got here on this traditional grub that they would have cooked here is obviously you've got the Cumberland ham, Lakeland lemon cake, Derwent water duckling, the famous snack.
Yeah.
Cumbrian sweet fingers. I think we've all experienced that in a discotheque. And of course the famous poached salmon pie. So no euphemisms there at all. But lovely meals you would experienced, and a tea towel over the shoulder.
Has anybody ever gone into a pub and said, "I'll have the poached salmon pie
or the sweet fingers"?
Or the sweet fingers.
I mean, I think I've had some sweet fingers in my time, but not probably in a pub.
Final clip. Are you ready?
Yeah, ever ready.
From the beer halls of fame shine out two gallant names, twin champions of Whitbread best beer. And one had this theory on drinking our beer, he was Abdul Bulbul Amir. As a rule, said Abdul, gravitational pull makes you sup standing up at the bar. Then a voice did declare Whitbread's best in a chair, it was Ivan Skavinsky Skavar. Well, those Gamby old goofs fought it out, nail and tooth, but neither of them was correct. Sitting down, standing up, Whitbread's not all that fast, 'cause the best needs no etiquette.
Crikey.
Pint of best, please.
Yeah. Some of these adverts really hark back to the old days, don't they?
Well, that was bring back the 80s. Even in the 1880s, still the busty barmaid was in charge of the beer.
Yes, of course she was. Yeah, it's like an Oktoberfest sort of lederhosen
thing that kind of you get the same kind of vibe from now, isn't it?
I think that's probably what influenced the ladies of the 80s is the lederhosens and the ladies with the big jugs of beer. And yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because if you wanted to attract kids from the 2020s to a pub, you would not show them stuff from the 60s or the 40s or the 50s or the 70s or even the 80s. Maybe the 80s, because they're a bit into that these days. But we were always shown old men, old people, old vibes of a pub. Come in here, it's cozy, it's nostalgic. That's not going to get kids back to pubs these days.
And then they invented alco pops, and history was changed.
That's it. Supermarkets started selling more beer than you could get in your local pub, but everyone stayed home.
Yeah,
that's why we're the only two in here. On a Tuesday afternoon, drinking ourselves to oblivion.
Isn't it strange as well with the whole lederhosen thing? And
you've got that on your mind now. Haven't you?
I have got that on my mind. It's like the two opposite extremes, isn't it? We put the women in the most attractive clothing that we possibly can.
Yes,
but we're going to just make the men look like absolute dicks. Isn't it?
We are though, aren't we? And they are attractive. we just turn up in a cloth cap and a long anorak, and they come in with the cleavages, and we're just at their beck and call.
Very strange. But yes, Whitbread. Is Whitbread still a thing?
I think it must be still a thing. It must be Whitbread from Fuller's. Whitbread was definitely the big brand and the good. And then obviously the young boys came in like Hofmeisters and Carlings and everybody trying to show them that actually forget bitter. Just grab a lager.
Yeah.
Be young and cool.
That was the thing, I suppose, because I suppose back in the 80s, lager was, it was a thing.
Yeah.
But you were still drinking pints of bitter more than...
If you're a real man.
Yeah.
That's what they were trying to tell you. Sorry.
Cheers.
Cheers. Drinking lager, not a real man.
And on that happy note of real men drinking pints and that, this is where we're at the end of another blooming episode.
Episode's over.
Episode 5 of the Bring Back the 80s podcast. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you want to take a guess at the mystery sound, in the comments down there. Let us know your proper name
Yes,
and
please.
roughly where you are. We don't need your full address and postcode. Just let us know what area you're in, because it's always nice to know.
It's tricky to know who's won it when it's this Vixen 69. Just like, well, we'll post it to Vixen 69 then.
Just so that we can have a clue when we try to track you down, just so that we know it's you. But let us know what that sound is from that iconic 80s TV show.
Do you want a game of darts?
I think so.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go and get one of those peanuts off the wall as well. Before we go. Listen, until next time, we'll say see you next Tuesday.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to this week's edition. We'd love it if you could subscribe in your favourite podcast app, and don't forget there's a video version on YouTube too. You can contact us using the links in the show notes and on the YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time for another edition of Bring Back the 80s.